Star Seekers. Hello, Star Seeds. Hello, Star Lovers. Thank you for joining me today and being interested in learning what I have to say about this solar eclipse coming up here on December 3rd. Um, technically December 4th here on this side of the hemisphere. It's really happening in Antarctica. Um, so we won't be able to see it where we are here, but on Eastern Standard Time, it's happening around 2:43 a.m. So that is fairly late. You may be able to catch the feeling of it if you stay up late, or if you're on, Pacific Standard Time, it's going to be happening at 12:43 a.m. And I'm going to go ahead and share this chart that we have of the solar eclipse here that's happening. So here we are, there's our solar eclipse chart happening here. We see the sun and the moon at exact conjunction at 12 degrees and 22 minutes. And that's ultimately what a solar eclipse is all about. And we see how close Mercury is. And this is all happening in Sagittarius. And it's not too close to the South Node, but it's close enough. And, what happens here is we're really bringing in um, a new energy, yet a culmination energy of many years leading up to this point. But it's going to be shifting and starting anew. So think of the last maybe 19 years of your life, because that's the last time we had a Sagittarius solar eclipse was in the end of 2002. What did you do then? What was very significant or prominent in your life that likely something happened? You may have given up one thing and started something new. This is going to be uh, bringing up that kind of similar energy again. But this time, we're really going to be taking a look at uh, our drive and our drive for more of a security and a structure, a new kind of structure. Because if we see here, Mars in Scorpio is our drive, and Mars in Scorpio is very driven to get deep and very profoundly experienced in what it wants. It's not afraid of going into the dark abyss and finding out what's down there. It is, very driven and very um, intense. And it's making a sextile to Venus and Pluto here, which are going to be a prominent theme, a feature of this upcoming month, really the next 2 months, because Venus will be meeting up with Pluto and then going into retrograde, where it will be until the end of January. So this is going to be bringing up a lot of our value system and what we feel secure with and what makes us feel good, but in a concrete way, in a very responsible way. With a Capricorn here, what will be taking on, what will be taking responsibility for to ensure our future is a bit more secure, our future is a bit more structured. So even though we'll be feeling like something's going to be ending and beginning here, um, essentially it's to begin a new structure in our life. Now, Sagittarius is always about truth. You'll never meet a Sagittarian who doesn't say what they're thinking. Sometimes you meet them without filters, and that's just how they're designed, which is fine. But the higher octave of Sagittarius is really truth. Now, the lower octave of Sagittarius can sometimes be excessive. Like they can be sometimes maybe excessive with their truth. Like, okay, at what point do you keep the truth to yourself? Because is it even truth anymore? Is it just your opinion? Because they can be a bit judgmental on a lower octaves, setting of Sagittarius can be sometimes judgmental. So we always want to maintain a higher octave perception of each, energy of each sign. So really what we're looking at here with the Sagittarian energy is ultimate truth and freedom. And there is a healing with that truth and freedom, a healing that needs to happen and needs to occur at this time. And again, this is a culmination, but a new beginning. Now, we are in the middle of an eclipse portal right now. And if you remember, we did have a lunar eclipse that occurred on November 19th. So, this is an extension of that. So, what happened in November 19th? And that will be something that will almost be something that you are shifting and changing. And then we'll be refocusing your energy on this upcoming solar eclipse to then bring forward. And I will go over that in the sun horoscopes, the sun sign horoscopes, which I will be pulling you based on your rising sign essentially. So um, you know uh, I do recommend looking at your rising sign horoscope and then also your sun and your moon as well placement if you feel called. But definitely your rising sign should be taken into account when you look at these horoscopes. But before I get into that, just kind of want to go over a little bit more of the features here of the solar eclipse energy. So, as we noticed, the Mars and the Venus and Pluto, we'll also take a look at, the ruling planet of Sagittarius. Well, it is Jupiter. And what Jupiter is doing is Jupiter is in the third decan of Aquarius energy. It's really coming to its mastery, really working with this Aquarian energy of humanitarianism, of technology, new scientific advancements and endeavors that somehow will be hopeful in taking care of humanity. So, Jupiter and Aquarius can be sometimes on a lower octave, a bit dogmatic about its belief, about its advancement, believing it is going to be for the better. Um, that can be a lower octave because we all know that's not necessarily true, especially with something that's experimental. We need to study that kind of energy. But on a higher octave, it really wants to see the advancement and the potential, individuality. It wants to help someone, it wants to help humanity feel unique and individual. How do we express our individuality? How do we move into our individuality? How do we stand up in a sovereign way? Because, Aquarian energy is also very unique. So although it is very humanitarian, it's also very unique. So it's what needs to be taken into account, both sides here of everything, as there are two sides to every coin. Okay, so as Jupiter is actually squaring Mars here, it is, a square here is actually pretty beneficial for our energy. It can really push us forward, even more so, and push us forward even more in terms of thinking of the future and what we'd like to achieve and attain. This can be a lot of attainment, a drive to really get more. So just, be careful of tendencies for excess, or, this can also be a indication that we're willing to risk things so that we can really, the payoff can be bigger. So this is this can be very heightened um, self motivation and belief in oneself. So if you maybe struggle to believe in something in yourself and a plan and really have the capacity to set it forth, this can actually be the push you need. But say you've been pushing for so long and you're ready to just go all in. I mean, you maybe need to take a step back and understand if that's the best decision. So again, this can go either way, but overall, this is a really great energy to really begin to shift and change in our life as well. And when this truth and this feeling of freedom comes forward, we may feel more open and inclined to make those changes that we've been wanting to. Uh, and we see that, Mercury, very close to the moon, they're both making a trine to Uranus. So it's more of a trine to the moon. Um, this is a really another beneficial energy that can come forward, as this can actually be an opportunity that presents itself to make those changes that you have been thinking about. So overall, this looks great. It's a portal, it's an opening to make necessary shifts, necessary changes. Neptune has gone direct, and Neptune has been in retrograde the past few months, so it's finally going direct now. And Neptune can, when it's direct, it can begin again to show us something that may be happening, especially it's making a trine to Mars. When it makes a trine to Mars, it can tell us again, be careful, as Mars is making, that square to Jupiter. Just be careful. You may again feel more inclined to really assert yourself a bit more now. Um, you may be more inclined now to assert yourself, but don't be afraid of mistakes if they do happen, because it will be an opportunity. It's always an opportunity to learn a new lesson. A mantra here is really, um, whatever happens is for uh, the ultimate expansion of my consciousness. I don't really care to use the phrase for the ultimate good, because, that becomes a very polarized view of good and bad. But it's more of an expansion energy when we are developing and moving into and through our initiation process in life. We're really just learning. So it is another opportunity for us to see a new way, to expand our consciousness, to see things from a different perspective as well. Really even connect into our spiritual essence, to help that process if possible. Um, but, overall, this is a very exciting time. And I do like to go over uh, the Sabian symbols of these eclipses, because I do feel like Sabian symbols are such an interesting take on the degrees that we have here to access. Now, this Sabian symbol is a flag that turns into an eagle, and the eagle into a chanticleer saluting the dawn. Now we know Sabian symbols were invented in the 1920s by an astrologer as well as a intuitive, and they went over each degree and really set the tone with about one sentence for each degree that summed it up in a basic visual. And so this is the visual we have for 12 degrees of Sagittarius. So really this symbol is kind of a testament to having the freedom, or to feel free to maybe proclaim one's feelings or belief, um, love of country or political opinions, hopefully without the fear of criticism or dismissal. In today's modern world, we can also call it being canceled, right? Now, I did choose the American flag just because this is where I live. And, our American flag does symbolize a lot to the rest of the world and even to us as Americans. So that is why I chose the American flag. Um, whether or not you feel like a patriot at this time, it's not really um, the point. But the point is that we see this unification of the symbol here, and I do feel like it really works with the eagle, as the eagle does symbolize, this freedom concept, this higher consciousness concept, as the eagle does fly above, and you think of the phrase a bird's eye view on seeing everything in perspective. Um, and when you look at an eagle, you see this dignity, this sovereignty, this independence, this strength. Um, it really does symbolize a lot of perhaps what the US is, known to pride itself upon. So this energy, which is interesting enough as well because of what the upcoming energies of the American Pluto return, as we are going to be looking forward to it, where Pluto is going to be moving into 27 degrees, which will be exactly conjunct the American Pluto. And there are many different uh, charts that nobody knows exactly for sure which chart is the correct chart with the appropriate ascendant degree, but for those who do pull the chart based on the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1996 July 4th, sorry, 1770, for those of us who do base the exact timing of the chart on the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, we do see the rising of that chart as a 12-degree Sagittarius rising. So it is very interesting that this solar eclipse will be happening close to the rising of the US's chart. So all of this, when you put it together, it tends to really illustrate a story for us on, especially what we've been going through and we've been experiencing. But, overall, flags are pretty much a testament to a held ideal that people can proudly display. So it can be, when people display flags outside their houses or whatnot, it can be an expression of their love or their pride, and a purity kind of enters into the picture through this eagle that's as well on this flag at dawn. And then the eagle definitely further represents a kind of strength, right, as well as a freedom and nobility. But then a voice enters. So a chanticleer, a chanticleer, when we think of a chanticleer, it is a rooster. And it's, we know a rooster can be very loud if we've ever lived near one. We know how they can be. And first of all, roosters are very protective. They like to protect their flock, and they're very territorial. Okay. They can be very boastful because of that. Um, so there's the energy there of that chanticleer, but also with its expression every morning, at dawn, it does sound an alert to everyone around it, letting them know a new day is upon them. So, to let us know the sun is rising and there is a new day, a new dawn um, on the horizon, it is very interesting as well to take that into account. So, a linguistic perspective here, it really does apply to the Sabian symbol. It's kind of like giving a voice to a new dawn, a horizon, um, a declared idealism, nobility and pride, love of self-expression, maybe self-expression as an act of freedom and sovereignty and truth, right? When we're allowed to express our truth, there's an element of that allows this feeling of freedom and expansion to take place. So, of course, a lower octave here, again, we have to just be aware of the lower octave that could be a potential manifest of this energy, can be propaganda and dominion. Okay, can be a spreading of misinformation. And like I said, like the Chanticleer, can actually be very domineering sometimes and pushy, can push other, hens around, or, decide if there's another rooster nearby, will likely be very violent. So that is the lower octave here that we do need to be careful of. So we need to take note that, any of the events and information that may be coming out in the next 6 months after this eclipse will have probably energies of both. So we just need to maintain a more positive outlook and understand that, how to use this energy for our benefit. and hopefully the benefit of humanity. But, the way we can best do that is by focusing on ourselves and really maintaining a healthy state of mind, body, and soul. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the horoscopes for each rising or sun sign. And I'm going to base this off of the lunar eclipse that happened on November 19th, maybe what got sparked then, right? And how this eclipse portal will be affecting you moving forward as it ends in this Sagittarius solar eclipse. Now, we remember that the solar eclipse is really a new moon on steroids kind of energy. And when we understand what a new moon is, a new moon is a new energy that we can manifest from, we can use to begin a new cycle. Okay, because a new moon always starts a new cycle where the full moon is just the midpoint of that cycle, really. It's like the culminating midpoint. And then as the next new moon, manifests, it's another cycle, another beginning. So it is a good time then to really set our intentions, during that and really after the eclipse as well. Okay, so I'm going to start with Aries. Now, Aries, this eclipse, Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon, eclipse cycle started with the lunar eclipse in your second house. So there was some completion there, a shift and change, perhaps release in your second house. So, there may have been, second house may have been attachments to material security that could have been released then. And so, with this upcoming solar eclipse, it will be taking place in your ninth house. So, there will be a new energy of your belief system, your consciousness, your higher expansion. How are you going to expand the way you feel about things? Are you going to be a bit more optimistic now, perhaps, or maybe focus on higher studies, learning something new of a new philosophy or new belief system or something like that? Perhaps even travel can be ninth house energies. So like I said, with the solar eclipse, this will be really unfolding for the next few months to the next year or so. And well, this is really a new cycle for the next 20 years. So because the next Sagittarius solar eclipse will not be happening for another 20 years. Now, okay, so next we're going to have Taurus. Taurus rising, Taurus sun, Taurus moon. The lunar eclipse had occurred in your first house, and on November 19th, the lunar eclipse occurred in your first house. So there was something there that shifted and changed, perhaps even released, maybe releasing something on a physical level, or the first house is about our individuality. Maybe there was something there that shifted and released during that time, and perhaps something about the way you perceive yourself was released at that time. Now the solar eclipse is coming in to your eighth house. So your eighth house is going to be bringing in this new energy of shared energy, shared resources. The eighth house is how we really intimately can connect, how we can share our experience. Eighth house is very interesting because it is about transformation as well, like death and rebirth process. What that happens with the eighth house, there's an alchemical process that happens there. So you may feel like you're going to be going through some kind of shift, and with that, there can be a power struggle with eighth house. So you'll be seeing a bit more of that, but you'll be able to navigate that by really allowing yourself to be vulnerable. So there won't be so much of that power struggle involved. Okay, so Gemini, the lunar eclipse happened in your 12th house. And on November 19th, that happened in your 12th house. So something you released regarding the way you felt, um, maybe in an unconscious way, spirituality, or something under the surface was released then in November. 12th house is a tricky one because we don't always know what is going on, but it can be very hidden from ourselves, even hidden from ourselves. So it is one of those things we do have to really go into a bit of solitude and understand. So perhaps you were able to release some of that. Maybe you were in solitude for a while, and you know that was coming to a culmination, and you understood what that solitude was about. And now the solar eclipse is going to be taking place in your seventh house. So how interesting to go from that place of solitude to now your relationships. So now your relationships will be taking on a new energy. um, maybe new relationships, or a new perspective on some of your relationships. Um, as as we see, Venus and Pluto is going to be on your eighth house. So, that is going to be about intimacy and power struggles as well. But you're going to be noticing a bit more of that relationship energy and how it's going to show you new things about yourself. So, relationships are really important. It doesn't always mean, romantic relationships. Sometimes our relationships can come through our very close friends, our partners in business, or, um, perhaps clients or teachers, anyone that we develop a one-on-one relationship with. They can all be showing us new things about ourselves, and you will be likely taking on new relationships coming up. Okay, next we have Cancer. So Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon. The lunar eclipse happened in your 11th house. So the lunar eclipse on November 19th happened in your 11th house. And so there was something there about your, um, maybe your community, or the community you associate with, the family, friends. Usually 11th house is our networks of people that we know and we connect with. um, there could have been some kind of culminating event that happened in November, that really kind of showed you something new that perhaps needed to be let go or shifted or changed. Even maybe you decided to change the network that you are part of, or join a new group. This is also about our hopes and dreams and wishes. Some of those could have shifted a bit. Some of their soul contracts could have been dissolved, resolved. Again, there could have been a lot of things happening in the friendship zone, but this could again be your network of people, perhaps a network of people that you communicate with, that you're involved with. All those things could have been um, really culminated and shifted and seen a bit clearer during that November eclipse. Now, the solar eclipse is going to be taking place in your sixth house. So, with that, you're going to be really experiencing more of your body, perhaps your health, maybe new health regimens, maybe new schedules. You'll be maybe maintaining a new day to day routine. Maybe you'll be seeing more coworkers and different coworkers, or those that you work with. Perhaps you'll be coming more into your mission or your service, and you'll be seeing a new line of service that you'll be called to take on, a new mission that you'll be called to probably again take to be a part of. And this the and You may also feel like there may be some push and drive for new relationships, eh, perhaps even more romance. So again, watch there. That there may be some commingling there with that. So just watch out because Pluto is also in your seventh house during this. So there will be some huge shifts perhaps in relationships too. And that may be something that started happening in the lunar eclipse and now will be taking on a new a new direction coming up for the next few months. Okay, Leo rising, Leo sun, Leo moon. The lunar eclipse happened in your 10th house, okay, on November 19th. So on your, November 19th, November, there's something that had culminated in terms of how your public life has come to a culmination point. Um, Something, may have ended, perhaps a career or shifted, maybe a new way that you want to present yourself in the public sector, how you want to, appear to the public, your public image may have shifted a bit. And career is really a 10th house energy because it's what we take on in service to the public at large. But you can also have some joint projects and joint missions that may have been culminated as well in November. So there were things that you saw come to fruition in November that had to do with this contribution that you'll be taking on to the Earth plane. Now, the solar eclipse is going to be happening in your fifth house. So that's perfect because now you get to have maybe a bit more fun. Hopefully, with the fifth house, it is very creative. So, this may be something you may feel called now to take on a bit more of a creative endeavor or project, or maybe with fifth house, you can take into account children as a fifth house thing. You could think about having children or just be spending more time with children next few months. Or fifth house is also about business, gambling, speculation. So maybe you feel called to be investing a bit more of your energy or time into something with like, a hopeful aspect to that. You could just be enjoying your life a bit more. But it does look like Pluto is going to be in your sixth house. So there will be a level of, responsibility for your uh, daily schedule and maintenance in your health. So you may feel, a push and pull between wanting, because, Pluto is conjunct Venus, wanting to splurge and enjoy life for all it's giving you, but then also knowing how you need to restrict yourself to some capacity and maintain a level of responsibility. But there's that Jupiter in your seventh house with along with Saturn, so it will be a level of really wanting to work with others. Maybe again y- maybe you'll want to work with others more one-on-one and have more relationships in your life that may be expanding your work as well too. So the fifth house is the Leo house. So this is where you shine, and this is where you can create and express yourself fully now, Leo. So this is your time is next few months. Okay, next we have Virgo. Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon. So Virgo in November on the 19th, the lunar eclipse did happen in your ninth house. So that did kind of bring to light perhaps some beliefs that you have had, or maybe some shifts and changes in regards to how you are viewing your spiritual um, expansion or philosophical understandings. Maybe you traveled then, and you felt like, okay, that's maybe enough traveling for now. Maybe you had taken on more of a higher learning. Maybe you were learning something deeper, maybe a spiritual undertaking of some sort, even more. And it kind of came to light for you, where you learned some very important things for your spiritual advancement. And maybe there was some things you read, or maybe you had some publishing, or whether you published or whether you read things that helped you expand yourself and expand your consciousness, that all kind of culminated then in November. So that was interesting for you to kind of learn the value of spiritual expansion and how that can aid you, that how that can provide a more it can provide more value to your life. Now with the solar eclipse, and that's happening in your fourth house, so perhaps this value is really taken into account through the subconscious, through the emotions, where you feel more uh, more self-confident, because the fourth house is really, it is a house, it's a very emotional house. It's where we go for self-confidence, for intuition, for everything that's internal, as opposed to the 10th house. The fourth house is the part of ourselves that nobody sees except for ourselves. No one sees our feelings, unless we display them in some way. So this is about finding a new way to really depend on yourself. That self assurance, that self reliance. Now, things from the past could come up. There could be anything in relation to the mother, or a maternal energy with that, because the fourth house does take on a more maternal type quality. But overall, there's going to be a lot of feelings under the surface that you're going to be called to work with and ground. It could also have to do with your home, because the fourth house is about our base of operations, where we base our life, our foundation, our home. So there could be things coming up now in the next few months that will really begin to shift and change how you perceive home, how you perceive your security, maybe even change your home. So all of those things will be coming up right now for you, Virgo, rising, sun, and moon. Okay, next we have Libra. Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon. The lunar eclipse happened in your eighth house. So there was something in your eighth house that kind of culminated. It came to fruition, maybe an ending, maybe a new um, insight into how you were sharing your resources. You know, maybe anything that you had been sharing with another, maybe intimacy, or eighth house can be dynamic and sharing power. It can be a really alchemical house where things go to transform. So there has been something transformative that had happened to you. Then uh, it's also the house of anything that we borrow, like loans or taxes or whatnot. That could also be an eighth house energy. So that could have come to a culmination point, or some kind of perspective. Then the eighth house overall is really about a death and rebirth process that we go through, and it usually involves another. Now, the solar eclipse is going to be happening in your third house. So the third house is really about communication, how we exchange information, how do we communicate, how do we connect. And this will be changing and shifting for you. It will be an ability for you to see perhaps new ways of connecting. And third house can also be commerce, like internet, like things you sell, products online or whatnot, because third house is about communication in learning how to use different programs, or learn how to go online and put together different programs, or go online and put together different packages and things like that and sell them, or getting on social media. Social media is a third house thing. So anything that you'll be coming into light more of how you can utilize different um, ways of communicating. So that will be um, coming more to fruition now as and changing in the next few months. Okay, so next we have Scorpio. Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon. The lunar eclipse in November happened in your seventh house. So there was something in terms of your relationships that culminated then. So something came to fruition, something came to an end, something changed, something shifted in mid November in regards to your relationships. And like I mentioned previously, relationships aren't always about your romantic relationships. Sometimes it's about your partnership in business, or your teacher, or a student, or a client. So there is some kind of shifts there and changes and a new perspective within your relationships. So now the solar eclipse is going to be happening in your second house. So this is going to be about how you value yourself. What do you own? What do you possess? Taking stock and taking account into what is yours. How can you begin now to provide for yourself? Um, it's there's something that you're going to be coming into a level of security, and this can include your money, and you will be probably coming into new ways of maybe making money, or new ways of valuing the things you already have, or new possessions. Um, this is all going to be a big part of your life the next few months, a focus that will be taking place for you, Scorpio. So just take note of that. Now, I do see Pluto, Venus tightly conjunct in your third house. So how do you use different forms of communication with others to begin to add that value? Are you using the internet? Are you online? Or are you doing things in relation to commerce? Maybe that could be a part of it. um, I also see, because Venus is there in your third house. So your fourth house, you have Jupiter and Saturn. So it could also be an aspect of your value, your self value, self worth, and how much your feelings and your emotions are allowing you to access that self confidence and security that you're working with. So that will be coming up for you in the next few months, Scorpio. Next, we have Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius moon. So the lunar eclipse happened in mid-November in your sixth house. Okay, so anything that happened in your sixth house usually has to do with one's shift and change in their schedule, or a difference, change in their health. Like some kind of health concern could have come to a culmination point. There could have been something that came up then around health or your schedule. And, sometimes our health, if it's off, our schedule's off, and it all, affects one another. Maybe a new mission was came online and was really culminated and really perceived in mid-November as well. Something that you'll be taking on more. Maybe your coworkers again could have like come and gone or changed and shifted mid-November. Now the solar eclipse is happening in your first house, so this is going to be about how you're going to reinvent yourself next few months. Maybe a new focus on your body and your health, because the first house and the sixth house are both body health houses. And so Sagittarius, this is really going to be about you and how you take care of yourself, how you're going to maintain your health, your, your physical health, um, your physical structure. Maybe you'll be maybe coming more into who you are, and maybe really starting to see who you'd like to be. Maybe you'll start to see the truth of who you've been and who you are, what you've been maintaining, and what you'd like to now be manifesting in your own life, in your in yourself, because the first house is really about the self. So this is going to be all about you, Sagittarius. So huge shifts and changes are going to be happening for you on a personal level the next few months. Okay, next we have Capricorn, Capricorn rising, Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon. The lunar eclipse in mid-November happened in your fifth house. So there was some changes in your fifth house, maybe culmination um, of anything that you had um, been engaged with that could have been really expressive or really engaging with your self expression, because the fifth house is about how we express ourselves, but it's also the house of enjoyment of life, our fun, the things we do for pleasure and the things we do recreationally, our hobbies are in the fifth house. So there was something there that really kind of came to a culmination point that you realize, was working for you or wasn't working for you, either way, that can happen. But, that was really taking note of everything that, happens in your fifth house. So fifth house can also be romance and, romantic kind of engagement could have happened then, or there could have been some romantic culmination, either an ending or a new beginning, or something there where it took something on to come to a culmination point in November. Now the solar eclipse is going to be happening in your first. I'm sorry. Now the solar eclipse is going to be happening in your 12th house. So the 12th house is really a kind of a house of solitude. It's where we go in and connect to what's behind the veils, what's on the other side, the spiritual realm, or maybe we go for healing. Hospitals are ruled by the 12th house, and we can go for healing. But although I don't feel like hospitals are really a healing center, more over the lines of maybe a retreat center, I would think would be an appropriate use of 12th house energy. It can be where groups of people, go to for reprieve, to go to heal, or for some kind of peaceful feeling. It's where you can go and you can become more in touch with soul records or akashic records, some ancient mysteries and ancient wisdom. Sometimes when we go into deep meditation, we can come online with those kinds of things. And it can be very important for our soul growth to do that. As Pluto and Venus are going to be in your first house, you're going to be working with some ego shifts and changes. So going into the dissolving the ego is going to be the way to go, so that you can begin to understand how in the next few months you're really going to come in touch with that deeper spiritual experience that you are probably craving, or that deep union that you want. So that will be interesting to know. Okay, next we have Aquarius, Aquarius rising, Aquarius sun, Aquarius moon. This lunar eclipse, this past lunar eclipse that happened in mid-November, happened in your fourth house. So something in mid-November in your fourth house did come to a culmination point, and that could have been your home. That could have been something that you're working on an internal level, that kind of came to some kind of fruition that you've seen was either shifted and changed, or ended, or something like that happened. And the fourth house can also be the mother energy, so something with the maternal energy there could have come to a culmination point as well. So with these fourth house matters, especially as that moon was in Taurus, this usually has to do with something more with the physical sense of your home. um Seeing it, how you can utilize the inner experience for more value in your life. How are you going to put more value in your home? How do you value your home more? Again, changes in regards to that, because the fourth house is also the base of operations, both emotionally and physically. So they do have to relate to one another. When we're emotionally secure, physically secure, they affect one another. So that fourth house energy is about your subconscious as well. So something could have culminated within the subconscious mind that was very interesting, that you got to see shift and change. Now the solar eclipse is happening in your 11th house. So the 11th house is really the house of Aquarius. This is your natural house, because the 11th house has to do with our connections to humanity, our connections to the hopes and dreams of humanity. Really, groups of people, communities, friends, they all live in that 11th house. So you'll be starting to see some of those maybe change and shift, and come, maybe new friends coming into your life, new communities you'll be a part of. And Pluto and Venus are in your 12th house. So there could be uh, maybe larger spiritual expansion that you could be going to, some kind of maybe retreats, or doing some things that are going to be different to help you shift and change um, the the networks that you come in contact with. Aquarius is, usually the sign, well, we are in the age of Aquarius, so it really is the sign of helping us understand how the future of humanity will progress, and what we can do to aid and assist that. So this will be seeing new ways of working and doing things with communities, or new scientific advancements, because that's very Aquarian as well. New, new, maybe new people in your life that will show you these things that you'll learn from, and that will. Again, just be something you are going to be working with in the next few months. Okay, Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces moon. This lunar eclipse happened in mid-November in your third house. Okay, so the lunar eclipse in your third house really just kind of helped you see how your communication in your life was, used, and a maybe a shift and change in how you communicated, or you saw the communication that you were taking on, and perhaps how it needed to change, or how it was working. Maybe you got to see, how certain levels of communication worked with some, and maybe not with others, or however that was shifted and changed in your life and released. And the third house does also have to do with our online connections, or our neighborhood, close contacts, our siblings as well. The third house does have to do with siblings, as well as commerce. So all of those things kind of came to a culmination point in mid-November, and things really kind of, you saw how they shifted and changed. And now this solar eclipse is going to be happening in your 10th house. So that 10th house is, with the solar eclipse, is really going to change as well. But it's going to be coming in with new energy, right? So that solar eclipse will be bringing in a new way of your maybe contribution to the earth. You'll be coming into a new mission that you want to join in with other people to take on. How are you going to be contributing to society in the earth plane? Because the 10th house is really how we have our public image in the world, and so it can be mostly associated with career because of that, because our career um, is, our public display of our service. But it can be, a stay-at-home mom is also a public image, or a grandmother is a public image, because that's how we present our role in society. So, all these things are going to be shifting and changing for you. You'll be bringing in these new ways of providing for society in your role, and taking on this role more publicly as well. And that does conclude my reading on this solar eclipse coming up here in December. And I hope this is helpful for you. And please stay tuned for future videos. I'll be doing a 2022 forecast with one of my favorite astrologers, so that I work with, and I'm really excited to be able to post that hopefully closer to the end of the year. But please feel free to leave comments, and to like if you like this video, and to share. And I really appreciate your time with me today, and consideration as well as trust in this astrological information. So take care, be well, and bye bye for now.